The night I moved out, my family popped champagne in the living room I paid the mortgage insurance on. I know that because I was standing in the doorway with the last box in my arms, car keys digging into my palm, when I heard the cork pop. Not a metaphor. An actual cork, hitting the ceiling fan, clattering onto the hardwood floor I'd paid to have refinished 2 Christmases ago. Before we continue, please hit that like button and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story reaches. Now, let's continue. To peace and quiet, my mother, Yvonne Marshall, said, raising a plastic flute like it was crystal. Finally, my stepfather, Reggie Carter, laughed so hard he had to set his glass down. My brother Nathan, 26, unemployed, living rent-free in the basement I also technically paid utilities for, filmed the whole thing on his phone, narrating like a sports announcer. And Hannah Marshall exits the building, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, the drama queen has left the arena. I stood there, 29 years old, 3 boxes, 1 duffel bag, and a U-Haul idling in the driveway. And not one person in that house turned around to say goodbye. My little sister Brianna, 19, the only one who ever looked at me like I was a person and not a paycheck, caught my eye through the window. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just watched, the way you watch a car crash you can't stop. I want you to understand something before this story goes any further. I wasn't leaving because I was dramatic. I wasn't leaving because I couldn't handle family. I was leaving because for 6 years I had been the invisible spine holding that entire household up, and the moment I told them I was moving into my own apartment, they threw a party like I was a tumor finally in remission. I didn't say a word. I got in the truck. I pulled out of the driveway of a house with my name quietly stitched into every bill they never saw. 47 of them, to be exact. They didn't know that yet. They were about to. Let me take you back. Because to understand why 47 bills were sitting under my name like landmines, you have to understand who I was in that house. I was 19 when my father died. Congestive heart failure. Sudden, ugly, over in 11 days. He left behind a life insurance policy that named me, not my mother, me, as the sole beneficiary, because he knew something about our household I wouldn't fully understand until years later. My mother sat me down 2 weeks after the funeral, mascara smudged, voice trembling in that particular way she'd perfected. Baby, I'm not asking for me. I'm asking for Nathan and Brianna. You know how your stepfather's construction business has been. I signed over access. Not the whole policy. I wasn't foolish, or so I thought. But enough. Enough to cover Reggie's truck note. Enough to keep the lights on during the 2 months his contracts fell through. Enough to become, at 19, the emergency fund for 4 other adults. It didn't stop there. It became a rhythm. Nathan needed help with his phone bill, just this once, for 4 years straight. Reggie's business insurance lapsed, and I temporarily put it on my card. The Wi-Fi, the streaming services, half the grocery bill some months, Brianna's cheer uniform, the family plan that had 6 lines on it and only 2 people who ever said thank you. I told myself I was being the responsible one, the one who had it together. My mother said it to my face more than once. You're just built stronger than the rest of us, Hannah. God gave you broad shoulders for a reason. Broad shoulders. That's what she called it when I was drowning quietly every month, moving money between 3 accounts at 2 a.m. so nothing bounced. I didn't resent them for it then. I loved my family. I wanted to believe love looked like sacrifice. It took me years, and one folder I found by accident in Reggie's home office, to understand that what I called sacrifice, they called a resource. It was a Tuesday in March when I found it. I'd stopped by to drop off groceries, yes, still, even then, and Reggie asked me to grab a stapler from the office drawer. Instead, I found a manila folder with my full legal name on the tab, Hannah Marshall. Inside were printouts, credit applications, a furniture store financing agreement for a living room set I never picked out, never sat on, never even seen in that house until that exact moment. A payday loan document with a signature that was almost my handwriting. Almost, but slanted wrong, rushed, forged. My hands went cold before my mind caught up. I sat down at that desk and went through every page. A second phone line I didn't know existed. 3 years old, $600 past due. A business expansion loan for Reggie's company, my social security number on the application, my mother listed as co-signer relationship, daughter. I found my birth certificate copy in there too, my social security card, things I hadn't seen since I moved out of my childhood bedroom, things that should have been in my own fireproof box across town. I heard footsteps and shoved the folder shut, heart slamming against my ribs like it was trying to escape the room before I could. "Find the stapler?" Reggie asked, leaning in the doorway, easy smile, like a man who had nothing to hide. "Yeah," I said. My voice didn't shake. I'm still proud of that. Found it. I drove home that night and didn't cry until I got to my own front door, the door to the apartment I hadn't moved into yet, the one I'd been secretly saving for behind their backs for 11 months, terrified of what it would mean to finally leave. That folder didn't make me angry right away. It made me quiet. It made me calculated. Because I already knew, screaming at my mother would get me a performance of tears and a promise nothing would change. I needed something colder than anger. I needed receipts. I gave myself 30 days. 30 days to become my own forensic accountant before I said a single word to anyone in that house. I pulled my full credit report from all 3 bureaus. I called every utility company, every lender, every subscription service with my name attached to it. I wrote everything down in a spreadsheet with a title I still can't say out loud without laughing bitterly. Family contributions, unpaid. The final count stopped me cold. 47 line items, utilities in my name at the family house. A family phone plan with 6 lines, 4 of which weren't mine. 2 emergency loans Reggie had taken using my identity, 1 furniture financing agreement, a car insurance policy covering Nathan's Charger that I'd never even ridden in, and a payday loan I didn't sign, but somehow had to prove I didn't sign. 47 bills, total damage, past and pending, just over $31,000. I didn't confront them, not yet. My friend Tasha Whitfield, who'd been begging me to leave that house since we were roommates in community college, sat with me at her kitchen table while I laid it all out. "Hannah," she said, quiet, careful, "this isn't family helping family no more. This is theft with a Thanksgiving invitation attached." I filed an identity theft report with the FTC. I froze my credit. I contacted a consumer protection attorney named Rochelle Adeyemi. No relation, just a good lawyer with a reputation for eating negligent relatives alive in mediation, who told me plainly, "You can press charges. Or you can simply stop being the shock absorber. Sometimes the second option teaches the harder lesson." I chose the second option, not out of mercy, out of strategy. I started one by one, quietly, legally, removing my name from every account I could, redirecting bills to the actual address they served, my mother's house, converting auto pay from Hannah's account to billing statement mailed to homeowner. No confrontation, no warning, just paperwork, patiently unwound over 11 days while I smiled at Sunday dinner like nothing in the world was wrong. I found my apartment on a Thursday, a 1-bedroom off-Bankhead with hardwood floors and a fire escape that caught the evening light just right. 690 square feet that belonged entirely, completely, only to me. I'd been promoted at work 8 months earlier, senior claims analyst at an insurance firm downtown, a fact my family somehow never mentioned when introducing me to anyone. "This is Hannah, she works in insurance," was as far as it ever went. Like my title cost them something to say out loud. I signed the lease with my own money, under my own name, verified by my own Finally undamaged credit report. I remember sitting on the floor of that empty apartment the day I got the keys, eating takeout out of the container, and crying not from sadness, but from something closer to relief so heavy it felt like grief. Brianna was the only one who helped me move. She showed up in cut-off shorts and an old t-shirt, hauling boxes without being asked twice, and around the third trip up the stairs, she finally said what had clearly been sitting on her chest. "They talk about you like you're difficult," she said, not looking at me, focused on the box in her arms. "Mama tells people you're always been the sensitive one. Nathan says you think you're better than us now." "What do you think?" I asked her. She set the box down. "I think you're the only one who ever showed up for real, and I think they know it. That's why they can't stand you leaving." I hugged my sister on those stairs for a long time. I didn't tell her about the folder yet. I didn't tell her about the 47 bills quietly rerouting themselves back to that address, like birds finally flying home to roost. I wanted her to have one more clean memory of our family before everything I'd unwound came due. The first bill arrived 9 days after I moved out. My mother called me about it, laughing, confused. "Baby, why is the cable bill coming to the house with your name still attached but no payment on it? Did you forget to switch something?" "I didn't forget anything," I said. "I think it's just catching up to whoever actually lives there." She didn't understand yet. Bill number 2 arrived 3 days later, the family phone plan, 4 lines she didn't know existed as hers because she'd never once looked at a bill, only ever looked at the phone in her hand. Bill 3 was the furniture financing agreement, due in full, no more minimum payments quietly absorbed on my end. By day 19, the mail carrier was leaving stacks, yellow past due stickers, red final notice envelopes. A collections call log that used to ring my phone now rang the house line for the first time in years, because I had, methodically, removed my number from every point of contact. Reggie called me on day 22. I remember the exact time, 6:47 p.m., a Tuesday. I was making dinner in my new kitchen for the first time, a chicken thigh sizzling in a pan that was mine, on a stove that was mine. "Hannah, there's some kind of mix-up with the accounts," he said, tight-voiced, trying too hard to sound casual. "Furniture people are saying repossession if we don't pay by Friday." "That's strange," I said. "You should probably call them. You always handled this stuff." "I don't work there anymore, Reggie." Silence on the line. Then, quieter, almost a threat, dressed up as concern. "Your mother's stressed about this. You know her blood pressure." I turned off the stove. I looked at my own reflection in the dark window of my own apartment, and for the first time in 6 years, I did not feel 1 ounce of the old panic rising in my chest. "I hope it works out for y'all," I said, and hung up. By week 4, the calls came in waves, each one carrying a different weapon. My mother tried tears first. "I don't understand how you could let this happen to your own family, Hannah, after everything I sacrificed for you." I almost laughed. Sacrificed. The word sat so strange in her mouth, considering the folder still burning a hole in my memory. "What exactly did you sacrifice, Mama?" I asked, calm, the calm of someone who has already done the math and is no longer afraid of the answer. "Because I have $31,000 of documentation that says different." She went quiet in a way I'd never heard her go quiet before. Nathan tried anger next, a voicemail I saved and still have. "You think you slick, huh? Cutting us off like we some strangers? After we let you stay in that house rent-free your whole childhood." I had to sit with that one a moment. Rent-free. As if I hadn't been the one paying half the household bills since I was 19 years old. As if the math didn't laughably, painfully favor me, and only me. Reggie tried a different tactic entirely, showing up. Unannounced, at my job, in the lobby of a downtown office building where I now had a badge, a title, and, as it turned out, a very attentive security desk. "I just want to talk," he said when I came down, voice pitched for an audience. "Then call my lawyer," I said. sliding Rochelle Adeyemi's card across the counter, like I'd been waiting years to do exactly that. Her number's on there. Anything about those accounts goes through her from now on. He didn't take the card. He left it sitting on the marble counter of a lobby I had every right to be standing in, and for the first time since March, I watched a man who had forged my signature look, genuinely afraid. It was Brianna who called that night, crying, caught in the crossfire of a house at war. "They're saying you did this on purpose." "Did you?" I took a long breath. I stopped covering for things I never agreed to cover in the first place. That's all I did, Brie. I just stopped. The breaking point, the real one, the one that changed everything between me and that house, came on a Sunday, 5 weeks after I moved out. I'd agreed, against every instinct Tasha and Rochelle had warned me about, to one family dinner. Neutral ground, Brianna's insistence, a promise from my mother that it was just to talk, baby, please. I sat at that table and listened to my mother explain, with a straight face, that using my identity had been for the family, that I'd always been the strong one, that surely I could find it in my heart to help, just this once more, with the furniture repossession scheduled for Wednesday. And then Reggie said, the thing that changed everything. "Your daddy would be ashamed of how you turned your back on this family," he said, leaning back like he'd landed a winning blow. "Man leaves you all that insurance money, and first chance you get, you act like blood don't mean nothing." I felt something in my chest go very, very still. "You forged my signature," I said, quiet enough that the table actually went silent to hear it. "You used my social security number without my permission. That's not turning my back. That's called federal identity theft, and the only reason you're not sitting in a courtroom right now is because I decided mercy was worth more to me than your comfort." My mother's mouth opened. Closed. "I loved this family enough to almost lose myself keeping it afloat," I continued, standing now, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. "I am done being the emergency fund for people who throw parties when I finally save myself. You don't get to invoke my father's memory to guilt me back into a house that forged my name behind my back." I picked up my purse. Brianna was crying at the end of the table. Nathan wouldn't meet my eyes. "The bills will keep coming," I said at the door, "because they were always yours. I just stopped pretending they were mine." Word travels in families the way water travels through cracked foundations, quiet, relentless, finding every weak point. Within 2 weeks, the furniture was repossessed from the living room where champagne had been popped in celebration of my absence. The family phone plan was suspended, 4 lines going dark mid-conversation, Nathan losing the connection to whatever girl he'd been arguing with at the time, according to Brianna, who'd become my only remaining source inside that house. Reggie's business loan, the one built on my forged signature, triggered its own investigation once the lender's fraud department got involved, because Rochelle Adeyemi had made sure, in writing, that my formal identity theft report was on record with every single creditor. That's not petty. That's just what happens when you finally tell the truth to institutions, instead of just family members who benefit from your silence. My mother called me crying, real tears this time. I could tell the difference. 3 days after the repo truck came. "Hannah, they're saying they might charge Reggie. Actual charges. What did you do?" "I didn't do anything but stop lying for him," I said. The truth was always going to catch up. I just stopped standing in front of it. Neutral parties started weighing in ways that surprised me. My Aunt Carla, my father's sister, who'd kept her distance from that house for years, called me for the first time in a decade. "Your daddy told me before he passed he was worried Yvonne would lean on you too hard," she said. "I should have said something sooner. I'm sorry I didn't." Even Tasha's mother, who'd fed me dinner more nights than I could count during those broke, overworked years, told me straight, "Baby, you didn't destroy that family. You just stopped being the glue, holding together something that was never built to stand on its own." Reggie ultimately avoided formal charges by agreeing to a restitution plan, supervised, humiliating, and entirely his own to carry. My mother lost the house 8 months later, not from any bill I unwound directly, but from the collective weight of years spent building a household on borrowed identity instead of honest income. I felt something the day I heard about the house, not joy, something quieter, something closer to closure. It's been 14 months since the night they popped that bottle in celebration of my leaving. I bought my own bottle of champagne last week. Good champagne, the kind with a cork that actually resists a little before it gives. The night I signed the paperwork on a 2-bedroom condo, purchased with my own name on the deed, my own credit, my own decade of careful, hard-earned rebuilding. Brianna lives with me now. She turned 20 last month, enrolled in nursing school 2 towns over, and every single bill in this home has exactly one name on it that matches the person actually responsible for it. She still talks to our mother sometimes. I don't discourage it, I just don't participate. My mother reached out again recently, a long message about wanting to rebuild trust. I read it twice. I didn't feel the old pull to fix it, to smooth it over, to become the emergency fund one more time. I felt something calmer than anger and colder than forgiveness. I felt finished. Reggie and Nathan, last I heard through Brianna, are renting a 2-bedroom across town, the kind of place 2 grown men share when the safety net they'd been quietly living on for years finally, permanently, closed. I think about that folder sometimes, the one with my name on the tab, sitting in a desk drawer that isn't mine anymore. I think about how easy it would have been to stay quiet forever, to keep absorbing shocks that were never mine to absorb, to keep calling exploitation broad shoulders because it was easier than calling it what it actually was. I don't regret the 47 bills. I don't regret the silence I kept while I built my exit, or the calm I held while everything finally came due at their doorstep instead of mine. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in me, the one everyone calls strong because it's more convenient than calling you used, I want you to hear this clearly. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to let the truth arrive at the right address for once, and when it finally does, you don't have to apologize for popping your own champagne. I poured mine slow, that night in my new condo. I didn't need an audience. I just needed it to be real. If you made it this far, you're amazing. Leave a like, subscribe, and comment "I made it," so I can thank you personally.